Welcome back to the Deep Dives. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's really fundamental to our digital lives. It often kind of goes unnoticed until you really need it. Or maybe worse, until you make a mistake with it. We're talking about managing files through compression. Think of it as, unlocking a secret efficiency hack, a key part of your digital toolkit. But yeah, there are a few critical traps to avoid if you really want to elevate your digital game. Okay, so let's unpack this then. Zipping and unzipping files. Sounds simple, right? But these actions offer some powerful benefits, often overlooked ones, for organization, for storage, for sharing. But the real genius, and sometimes the pitfall, is in what you're compressing and how it interacts with modern security and different file types. We're going to dive into those details, the ones often missed, that truly make a difference.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive, it's not just about the how, not just demystifying how you zip and unzip in Windows, though we'll cover that quickly. It's also about understanding the why behind it. That's crucial. We'll explore the key things you absolutely need to be aware of and how modern systems handle all this stuff. Goal is practical, actionable knowledge. Quick, but thorough. So you walk away feeling, totally informed and ready to optimize your workflow.
A clear mission. And I think that why, like you said, that's where a lot of listeners will find immediate value. Beyond just the clicks, why bother zipping? Okay, save space, sure. But it unlocks these surprising efficiencies, too. Imagine cutting your cloud upload times for a big project. Or getting past those annoying email attachment limits. It's like reclaiming gigabytes on your drive without actually deleting anything. Think of it maybe like packing a suitcase. For a long trip, right, you don't just chuck everything in there. You fold strategically. Maybe you roll things. You condense items to fit better, more efficiently. So you can fit more in, and the whole suitcase is just much easier to carry or ship. Zipping files. It's basically that, but for your digital data, making it compact, manageable for transit or just for storage.
Yeah, exactly. And what's fascinating here is how much time and bandwidth this simple action can save in really practical ways. For our learners out there, think back to that moment. Your email says, attachment too large. Super frustrating. Or you're trying to send, 12 separate documents to a client for just one project. Zipping isn't just a workaround in those cases. It's almost a presentation tool. It bundles everything into one neat package. Professional looking. Streamlines your workflow. Makes things tidier. I remember once spending, probably too long, manually attaching files before realizing a single zip would have taken seconds.
Yeah.
It really is a game changer for collaboration, for organization.
It really does streamline things. Okay, but question. Does that bundling ever slow down access later? Or are there, types of files that just don't play nicely when you try to combine them?
That's a really good question. For the most part, no. Once you extract the files, they perform exactly as they did before you zipped them. The whole process is designed to be pretty seamless. Now, as for files not playing nicely, that touches on a crucial point we definitely need to get into shortly. About which files you choose to compress, it matters. But the good news, for the vast majority of everyday stuff, documents, media, it's generally a smooth ride. And Windows makes this, dead simple. You don't usually need special software for basic zipping. It's built right into the system.
Okay, so for anyone needing a quick refresher, let's walk through how to zip a file or folder. It's essentially just a right click, then send to, then compressed folder. That's pretty much it. A couple of clicks, boom, you've got a new compact archive. More specifically, you find the file or folder you want to compress, locate it, then you right-click it, that little menu pops up, the context menu, select Zen to, and then you just choose compressed folder. Windows does the heavy lifting.
That's right. And what happens next is just as straightforward. A new zipped folder appears, usually with the same name as your original file or folder, right there in the same location. So you'll see the original and its new compressed twin side by side. And renaming it, super easy. Just right-click the new zipped folder, select rename, type whatever you want. The whole thing is designed to feel just like working with any other file or folder in Windows. Keeps that learning curve really low.
Okay, so you've zipped your files, maybe you send them off or just stored them away. Now the other side of the coin, getting them back out when you need them, unpacking that suitcase we talked about. And there are actually a couple of ways to do this, right? Depending on what you need.
Precisely. Yeah, unpacking isn't always one size fits all. You've got options. Windows gives you two main ways to unzip or extract files. The first method, perfect if you just need, say, one single file. Or maybe one specific folder from inside that zip archive. In that case, you just open the zipped folder. It looks like a regular folder usually. Then you can just drag that specific file or folder you want. Drag it right out of the zip folder to wherever you want it on your computer, desktop, another folder, whatever. Very intuitive. The second method is when you want everything, the whole lot, out of that zipped folder. For that, you right-click the zipped folder itself. Don't open it, just right-click the icon. From that context menu, you'll select Extract All. This option usually starts a little wizard, simple guide, and lets you choose the destination, where you want all the extracted stuff to go, and make sure all your files get properly restored to their original uncompressed state.
So it seems, on the surface anyway, almost deceptively simple, quick, efficient. But like with any powerful tool, there's often a flip side, isn't there? Our sources really emphasize this is not just about the clicks, it's about making smart decisions. Because some of these nuances, they carry genuine risk if you're not careful. Okay, so basics covered. Now we're getting into the more critical stuff, the insights from our sources. These are the details that really separate savvy users from those who might accidentally run into trouble. The notes section, basically. And understanding these can really boost your digital hygiene.
Indeed. First off, just a handy operational tip. If you want to add more files or folders to a zip file you already made, it's actually just as simple as adding files to a regular folder. You just drag them onto the zip folder icon. Windows handles integrating them. No need to start all over again. Okay, now for something really critical. A major warning, actually. We strongly recommend that you avoid zipping files that are already encrypted. So if you add files that are encrypted, meaning they're protected, maybe with a password or some other security, but if you add those to a standard zip folder, they will be unencrypted when someone unzips them. That protection is just gone, stripped away in the process, which could obviously lead to unintentional disclosure of personal or sensitive information. This really raises an important question, doesn't it? About data security, personal responsibility. Always be aware of the state of your files before you compress them, especially sensitive ones.
Wow, okay, that's a huge potential pitfall. Seriously. So let me get this straight. Someone has a sensitive document. It's already encrypted on their system. They zip it up. The zipped file looks innocent enough. But when someone else, or even they themselves later, unzips it, the encryption just vanishes.
Exactly. That's precisely it. The standard Windows zipping process doesn't preserve that individual file-level encryption within the archive. When you extract, the files are just returned to their raw, unencrypted data state. So if you were relying on that file encryption for security, yeah, it gets bypassed by zipping and unzipping, leading straight to that risk of unintended disclosure. It's a vital detail, and honestly one that's often missed, and another important nuance to get your head around. Some file types are already, highly compressed. Think JPEGs images or MP3 audio files, even some video formats. What this means in practice. If you zip up, say, a folder full of JPEG pictures, the total size of that resulting zipped folder will be pretty much the same as the original collection of pictures. Maybe tiny savings, maybe none. So while zipping is fantastic for things like documents, spreadsheets, or folders with loads of small text files, don't expect miracles, size-wise, for files that are already heavily optimized. It's about managing expectations, right? Understanding what compression can realistically do.
That's a really crucial point. So putting it all together, what does this mean for managing your own data, your security? It means being mindful, right?
Yeah.
Aware of what you're zipping and why you're doing it. It's not just about making things smaller. Sometimes that doesn't even happen effectively. It's about protecting information and understanding the limits of the tools you're using. You can't just assume the tools will always do what you hope they'll do without knowing these specifics.
Right, a crucial distinction. And speaking of tools, our sources also shed light on how Windows itself has evolved, and just as importantly, when its own built-in tools might not be quite enough for what you need. They tackled some frequently asked questions that show Windows moving beyond just basic zip files.
That's right, and it's a welcome evolution, definitely, particularly in newer Windows versions, specifically Windows 11 version 24H2. It now supports a broader range of archive formats natively. Think of these as different kinds of compressed bundles like zip. So beyond the familiar zip, you'll find built-in support for RAR, 70s, and even tar. These are common formats you might get from other people or download from the web. So this really expands Windows out-of-the-box versatility quite a bit. However, and this is a key limitation, tying right back to our security warning. While Windows 11 24H2 supports compressing and decompressing these various formats, it explicitly does not support operations on encrypted archive files, password-protected ones. So if you get an archive that needs a password, you want to create one, the built-in Windows tools won't cut it. They won't be able to open or create those secure archives. Seems like a deliberate design choice, maybe leaning towards security rather than just a missing feature. So for that crucial functionality, creating or decompressing encrypted archives, the sources recommend looking at non-Microsoft apps. apps. Tools like 7-zip or WinRAR, they're widely used, they're robust, and they excel in handling encryption. If we kind of connect this to the bigger picture, it's about knowing your tools. Knowing when the built-in stuff is perfectly fine for everyday tasks, and when you really should reach for a specialized, trusted third-party tool for those more advanced or security-sensitive jobs. Basically, having the right tool for the right job and knowing the difference.
That makes perfect sense. So day-to-day file organizing, quick sharing Windows native tools. Probably fine, great even. But if you're dealing with sensitive stuff, encrypted archives, it's absolutely worth looking into a trusted app like 7-zip or WinRAR to make sure that encryption stays intact end-to-end. Sounds like a fundamental choice, really. Convenience versus control and security.
Exactly. It's about making an informed choice, especially when security is on the line. The convenience of built-in tools is fantastic, no doubt, for many scenarios. But understanding their boundaries, especially around encryption, that's where the real value of this deep dive lies, I think.
What a journey. Seriously, from just clicking send to all the way to understanding encryption nuances and different archive types, we've really taken a deep dive into something many of us probably just take for granted. We've seen how this seemingly small action zipping, unzipping can dramatically impact efficiency, organization, even your security. The ease of basic operations is a huge plus for sure. But those vital security considerations, especially around encrypted files, those are truly paramount. Can't stress that enough.
Absolutely. Understanding these tools fully really empowers you. It gives you control. That warning about encrypted files, yeah, maybe the most critical takeaway. It highlights the need for good digital hygiene, right? And just being aware of what you're doing with your data. And knowing about Windows 11's expanded support, plus when to use external tools, it means you're now equipped to handle pretty much any archive that comes your way with confidence.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us. And here's a little something to think about. Considering how often we share files digitally now, and knowing these nuances about compression, about encryption, how might understanding these details change the way you strategize your digital sharing, how you safeguard your information? Something to mull over. We'll see you next time.